So we're starting here on page 22, and as soon as we start this passage, we are in indirect statement. We're still in an indirect statement. So what that means is that we've got accusatives and infinitives. Okay, so Appius is speaking, and our first accusative is the reflexive pronoun se, which is here. And then our first infinitive is praebiturum, and we have to imagine esse, praebiturum esse. Okay, and praebeo means I offer something. So he said that he, say, would not offer non praebiturum to him, eo, that would refer to as Silius, he would not offer to him a cause, a materiam, on that day, aoda. And aoda is an ablative time phrase because it's time when, right, on that day. So in other words, he's saying that he is not going, Appius is saying that he's not going to give Silius an excuse to start some kind of violent revolution. Okay. And then we have sed ut jam sciret, right? So sed meaning but, ut meaning so that, jam meaning now, and sciret meaning he should know. And that's in the imperfect subjunctive because we're in a purpose clause, right? But so that he should now know that, and now again we go into indirect statement. So id is our accusative, and datum esse, right, we imagine the esse, is our infinitive. So that he might know, so that Silius might know, that id, was not given, non datum, for his insolence, petulantiae suae, so that would be dative case. But said, for the absent Virginius, Virginio absenti, and for the patrio nomini. That's a rather hard phrase to translate. It literally means the paternal name. We could say something like the name of a father. In other words, he's doing it for fatherhood in general, you know, for fathers everywhere, for the status of fathers, and also for liberty, et libertati. Okay, so in order that Silius might know that Appius is making his decision for Virginius and for fathers in general and for the sake of freedom, not because he wants to cave in to Silius's threats of violence, right? So because of all that, he, say, would not pronounce, non dicturum, would not say, would not pronounce judgment, use, on that day, aoda, nor, neque, would he deliver interpositurum a decree, decretum, right? So he's saying, look, if I made a decision today, it would sound as if I'm giving in to you, right? I'm trying to rush a verdict against Virginia, or I'm giving a verdict for Virginia because I'm scared, right? And he's saying, I'm going to wait until Virginius, the father, turns up, just so that you know that my decision is all about him and nothing to do with you, Silius. So that's the point. And then we're still in indirect statement, right? So he said that he would seek petiturum, and presumably the subject of this is still Appius. He would seek, or he would ask from Marcus Claudius, a Marco Claudio, that he yield or desist, ut decederet, that he would desist from his right, juret sua, that's ablative after decaderet, literally to sort of desist from his right. We might say in English, yield his right. And que, that he should allow pateretur, and that comes from patior, which means I suffer. And patior, yeah, means to suffer, but it also has this meaning of allow, which we also get in old-fashioned English, right? I will not suffer this to happen, means I will not allow this to happen, right? So, so that he would allow the girl, puellam, to be freed, vindicari, present passive infinitive, until the following day, in posterum diem. Right? Or in fact, we probably say on the following day, something like that. Or, yeah, so I suppose the idea is that the girl will go free until they meet again. So yeah, I think actually, yes, until will be a better translation. And then in the next phrase, get rid of these annotations. In the next phrase, we start with quod, which means something like for or because. So for, and then we're still in indirect statement, unless the father were present, nisi pater ad fuisset, unless the father were present on the following day, postero die, ablative because of time when, he was making himself clear, denuntiare se, literally he was announcing himself. And again, this is an infinitive because we're in an indirect statement, right? So he said that he was making himself clear to Isilius, right? So Ikilio is dative case, to Isilius and to those similar of Isilius. In English, we wouldn't use a genitive there. We would say those similar to Isilius. Right? He was making himself clear to Isilius and to those similar to Isilius that neither, neque, would the proposer, the latorem, the proposer of the law, be lacking de fore, right? The verb de sum means to be lacking, and this is the future infinitive. So neither would the proposer fail his own law, be lacking for his own law. And then we have the dative legi suae, for his own law, nor neque would firmness, constantia, be lacking, de fore again, for the decemvir, i.e. for himself. Right? So Appius is basically saying, you know, the girl can go free until the trial, but do not think that I am caving in to your demands, right? I will pursue the law that I introduced, and I won't kind of chicken out, right? That's the point of constantiam de fore, right? My courage won't abandon me, and that sort of thing. Okay, and then we're still in an indirect statement in the next sentence. So he said that, nor, nec, would he say, there's our accusative, nor would he, in any event, utique, nor would he anyway summon convocaturum, again we imagine esse, nor would he summon the lictors, lictores, of his colleagues, collegarum, ad coercendos auctores, for controlling the authors or instigators of sedition, seditionis. And then he says that he, say, would be content, fore contentum, with his own lictors, suis lictoribus. Right, and this is a direct response to what Isilius said before. If you remember, Isilius was saying, you know, do your worst, call together all your colleagues' lictors. And Appius is responding to that threat. He's saying, no, no, my lictors are going to do just fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's then go on to page 24. Okay, so we start with cum here, cum tempus injuriae, since the time for injustice, dilatum esset, had been delayed, pluperfect subjunctive, since the time for the injustice had been delayed, and quae, the advocati puellae, the supporters of the girl, had gone away, se que sissent. Okay. It seemed good, placuit. It seemed good that, first of all, primum, the brother of Isilius, fratrem Icili, and quae, the son of Numitorius, filium Numitori. And then these are described as impigros juvenes. Literally, impigros means not lazy. So we might say energetic or something like that. Energetic young men. Okay, so we've had our accusatives, the brother of Isilius and the son of Numitorius. Now we get the infinitive, right? So it seemed good for them to pergere, to head off, recta, straight, to head straight off, from there, inde, to the gate, ad portam, and at quantum posset ad celerari, as much as it was possible to be accelerated, to be hastened. For Virginius, Virginium, to be summoned, aciri, present passive infinitive, from the camp, a castris. Okay, so the point in this sentence is that, you know, there's no immediate threat. As Livy puts it, the time for injustice has been delayed, right? No one's going to seize Virginia today. And also, there isn't much chance of any kind of revolutionary activity because all the supporters have just sort of gone home now that they've heard about the trial being postponed. So therefore, there's no point sticking around. There's no point trying to stir up revolution. What they do need to do is to make sure that Virginius, the dad, arrives in Rome in time for the trial. That's key. So that's why they find these two young guys, right? The brother of Isilius, the fiancé, and the son of Numitorius, the grandfather, or possibly uncle. And yeah, and they want to send them from there to the camp near Frascati where Virginius is. Okay, and we now go into yet another indirect statement. So they felt, so I put in my translation, they felt that, we need to add a phrase like that in English, they felt that the safety of the girl, salutem puellae, literally was being turned, verti, was being turned, or you could just say turned, on this, in ea. In other words, they felt that the girl's safety depended on this. And Livy now tells us what the girl's safety depends on. It depends on whether or if, see, on the next day, postero die, ablative time when, on the next day, her vindex injuriae, literally her protector of injustice, or in English we would say her protector from injustice, be present, esset praesto, praesto means present, ad tempus, in time. Okay, so in other words, her whole safety depends on whether her protector from injustice, that is Virginius, her father, gets back to Rome in time. Okay, and then in the next sentence, jussi, perfect passive participle, having been ordered or having been commanded, they pergunt, they set off, and quae, with their horses having been urged on, so that's an ablative absolute, citatis equis. You could as I did, translated a bit differently. I said at full gallop. They perferunt, they deliver the message, nuntium, to the father ad patrem. Now, ferro means to bring, and therefore perferro means to bring the message successfully. That's why I use the word deliver in my translation. Okay. And then we have another cum clause to begin the next sentence. When the adsertor puellae, when the claimant of the girl was instaret, was urging that, vindicaret, that he take charge of, we might say, that he take the girl, presumably, we have to imagine puellam, right, that he take her and give sponsors, daret sponsores, and we'll talk about those sponsors in a minute. So he's urging that he take charge of the girl and provide bail, right? So he's saying, look, if you really want to take Virginia home, you're going to need to, take responsibility and give the necessary sponsores, okay? And when, atque, we just imagine cum again, right? And when Isilius was saying, Icilius diceret, that he, we have to imagine say, that he was doing, or in fact, the grammar's a bit different. When Isilius was saying that id ipsum, that thing itself, was being done, so agi is a present passive infinitive, and presumably Isilius means it's being done by himself. Okay, so and when Isilius said that that very thing was being done, and then Livy tells us what he's also doing. He is deliberately, sedulo, deliberately wasting time, tereins tempus, deliberately wasting time, while or until, perhaps even until would be a better translation here, until the nuntii, the messengers, having been sent to the camp, missi in castra, could praeciperent iter, could literally anticipate the journey. We might say get a head start on the journey. In other words, Isilius is kind of deliberately wasting time to make sure that these messengers who've been sent can quickly travel where they need to go, right, and not be stopped by anyone or whatever, right? They're buying time, or Isilius is buying time. And then we finally get to the main clause, right, which is the crowd, multitudo, were raising their hands, tollere manus, right? This word tollere is what we call a historic infinitive. Its grammatical form is an infinitive, but it functions like an imperfect tense verb, like tollebant, or rather tollebat in this case. So the crowd were raising their hands on every side, undique, and each one, et quisque, was showing ostendere, which would normally be ostendebat, was showing that he, say, was prepared, paratum esse, we have to imagine esse, was prepared literally for sponsoring or something, for giving bail to Isilius. So Icilio there is dative case. Now, just one last thing before I end this video, which is about the sponsores. What are these sponsores? Basically, the sponsores means some kind of assurance that you're not going to run off, right? Because Isilius is going to walk away with Virginia. So what's to stop him just leaving and never coming back? He has to leave something, what we would call in English, bail. B-A-I-L, right? He has to leave something which guarantees that he'll come back. So he could leave some cash, he could leave some slaves, something else, you know, just to make sure that he's not going to grab Virginia and, you know, sail off to Spain or whatever else he might do. Okay, so we'll stop there for this video, and then in the next one I'll start from page 26.